It's already New York Jets, Denver Broncos week. I can't believe it's already week 5. This season goes by very quickly. So let's kick it off and talk all things New York Jets and Denver Broncos storylines, plus Zach Wilson, Jets playoff chances. Let's get into it.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming live simultaneously in 3 different locations. The Heavy on Jets Facebook page to 38,000 screaming Jet fans. YouTube.com/BoyGreen25 and on Twitter, X, whatever, at BoyGreen25 as well. And it's officially Jets Broncos week. Week 5. 1-3 start to the season. Not ideal by any means, especially that Patriots loss is going to bother me all season long. But nonetheless, you have to move on. And what I believe happened in the latest game, Sunday Night Football, week 4, was there was a light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel, of course, being that horrible loss. But the light at the end of the tunnel that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance. Just maybe you believe. Like 1-3 is not an ideal start. That's not how, let me draw up how the Jets are going to make the playoffs and end the drought. But you look at the schedule for the gosh darn New York Jets. You got the Denver Broncos, who stink. The Denver Broncos are terrible. Although we'll learn more about the Broncos throughout the week with a couple of Broncos insiders joining us here on the show. So they'll be joining us. So we'll have a few Broncos people and get that insight. So that'll be interesting as well. Kind of prepare us for it. And we'll have a few Jets people like this guy joining me right now on the gosh darn program, the host of the award-winning TOJ podcast. None other than Will Parkinson. Will Paul 11. What is up, Will?
How are we doing, man?
We're doing excellent. Now, I need to start this off immediately because you're an expert in these matters, Will. So I think this is the proper way to start the show today. That the last time I had you on, Will, the last time I had you on the show, we kept using that same picture that you can kind of see a little bit below you with your Cortland football uniform on. So you're an expert in such matters. So I had to dig it up. Not nearly as good quality. There we go. Right there, baby. There you go.
That's an elite picture right there.
There you go. That's a young Boy Green with the Jack Sparrow mustache beard combo. I thought it looked great. Look at that great color too. That's phenomenal. So okay, Will, I need a proper evaluation here on this. What's the picture looking like?
Yeah,
Look at that.
obviously the elite. The elite facial hair. You're probably 12 years old. Had a full beard because you are the man. Right. You are the man child. Yeah. So no, I'm elite. Solid number. Perfect hand placement. The ball looks comfortable. It looks like you know what you're doing. I'm giving a nice 8.7 out of 10. The only thing that'd be crazier is maybe, some crazy haircut, a mullet, something nuts. But other than that, pretty elite. Elite facial expression. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's why we brought you on. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Well, there's a few things I want to get into here right off the bat before we get into the main theme, which, again, the Jets playoff chances with Zach Wilson now with the Denver Broncos week coming up. I'm kind of curious, a couple of futuristic questions. Number one, Dwayne Brown. So he goes to IR. He's missed the last 2 games, so 2 more games at a minimum with injured reserve and whatever he's dealing with. Is there any chance when he comes back, which technically is 2 weeks away, but again, we'll see with health, that he could disrupt everything? Because the Jets love him so much that no matter what continuity or whatever they create, he could come in and then they reshuffle everything back? Or is whenever he returns, hey, sorry, pal, this offensive line is gelling. This offensive line is good. You're on the bench, and if an injury happens, then we can make some choices.
Yeah, there's come a couple of things here. I personally would not change what's going on. The only place on the offensive line I think is a weak point is still center. I said it on your show, on radio. I said it at the end.
Yes.
If you want every bad play that seems to happen for the offensive line, which has been few and far between, by the way, for the last 2 weeks, and even in the Dallas game, that was the last game where you felt like, kind of looked like the Giants line last night. The Jets line was really good on Sunday, and I thought they were pretty damn good the week before as well. If you wanted to tell me that you would move Tittman you kind of shuffle the right side back over and put Becton at right tackle and Brown back at left. That's the only kind of option I'd be theoretically open to, where you kind of like the right side is Tittman, AVT, and Becton, and you probably run for 500 yards a game behind those three behemoths. But Lincoln Tomlinson's played better. He looks just comfortable the last couple of weeks next to Mekhi Becton. He's the best he's played as a Jet the last 2 weeks. He's graded out really well both weeks. Joe Tittman's been really good in pass pro and the run game. AVT looks really good at right tackle. So it's just like Mekhi Becton's not been perfect at left tackle, but he's looked pretty good. He's looked better than Dwayne Brown, at least in through 2 weeks. I know Brown was, there's the chart that says Brown faced the toughest matchup of any left tackle in the first 2 weeks, and I guess I can see a world in which they do insert him back, but I also see a world in which he doesn't play again this year. And unfortunately, I don't know how serious. I mean, dude, you're tearing a rotator cuff and coming back in like 6 months is insane for anybody, let alone a 38-year-old left tackle who's played 18 years in the league. And now there's got the hip thing or whatever's going on there. I don't know. It's probably like 50-50. He either like comes back and they do kind of something similar to that. I just feel like they have a good group right now that's going, and like, unless something changes, part of the best things about offensive lines, and you know this better than anybody, the best ones play together, right? It's not even that they're 5 all-pros. It's 5 guys who consistently know how they're going to be, right? Mekhi Becton and Lincoln Tomlinson might have good chemistry right now, and that's why, Lincoln's play is kind of picked up because he kind of knows where things are going to go. So I wouldn't mess with it right now. Maybe during the bye week is the time you could if you wanted to, because they have time to practice, but just feel like kind of roll with the 5 you got right now, especially if Zach's comfortable, if the running game looks decent. I wouldn't mess with stuff right now if you don't have to.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I'm not rooting for injury, so I don't want this to be misinterpreted and clipped out. The Wes Schweitzer injury came at a perfect time because according to everyone I've heard from, the plan was Wes Schweitzer in there at right guard, not Joe Tittman. He gets hurt, so they can't. So they said, well, we'll go with Tittman. And Tittman's been great. And obviously you'd prefer Tittman to be getting the reps as a second-round pick as opposed to Wes Schweitzer, this kind of Swiss Army knife can plug in wherever you want. So that's worked out great, and I hope that Joe Tittman continues to get those opportunities. So really excited for him to get on the football field. That's very nice.
I think you invested a top 45 pick. I said it. I thought the bye week at the latest is the first time we'd see him start. Just because maybe they slow roll him. The Jets have done that under Saleh and Douglas, other than Zach and AVT. But even Garrett Wilson, Garrett Wilson didn't start week 1. Sauce wasn't a starter. Breece Hall,
yeah.
Sauce was all started, but like he was a top 5 pick, and it took him all camp to quote unquote win the job and run with the ones. Right. Jermaine Johnson was developed late. Will McDonald's played more and more. It feels like each week. I know the last time I was on with you, that was a big concern. I think he's starting to get a lot of Carl Lawson's reps, and I like the idea of slow rolling Tittman a little bit, but I also feel like now he's probably a top 3, like of the linemen that have the highest ceiling. Obviously, we've seen Mekhi Becton at his best is who he is, but AVT and then it's Tittman, right? Like those are the guys that you're like, they could be really damn good and like here for a long time. Tittman's 21, 22 years old. AVT is 23, 24. That could probably, if you want that to be, that's your right guard, right tackle for the next 5 to 7 years, right? And like that's what you're kind of working towards. The Jets have just not had that in a long time, and I think now that you got him in there, now it's can't. I mean, Schweitzer could play center if you needed him to, and if McGovern continues to struggle, right? Like, there's other ways you could. I feel like you could find a league average center in free agency, or like in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round, or maybe the 3rd round this year in the draft if you needed to replace. But if Tittman's going to thrive at right guard, I'd just keep him there. I mean, I know maybe that's unpopular, but I'd rather have guys that are just really good at their position, and maybe you have to make one move as opposed to like, oh, we have a lot of guys that play a lot of positions. It's like, can you get 5 that can play one good? It's like
what's that line, right? You're either a master of something or whatever the jack of all trades thing is. Like that's what I think. That sometimes it's tantalizing.
We obsess over it too. Don't we obsess over it?
Right.
It's like, oh, dude, this guy can play. This guy can play D tackle, D. What are you good at? Like, let's put you there. Let's just be really good at this spot. Or the Jets have had that too. It's like I think all training camp. I know you talked about it. It was like, wow, they have a lot of depth, especially on the interior, and they all these guys that can play guard, tackle, center. It's like AVT might just be a really good right tackle, right? Like he just might be really good at right tackle, and it's like let's just let him be good at right tackle. Like, and then and if we need to because of an injury, you move him. But like he's played 3 positions in 3 years. Like, Tittman's already played center and right guard. You see Becton left tackle. It's like that's great that these guys are versatile, but also it's like let's let them get comfortable, play 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row because that's when you start to see an offensive line gel. And I know we're going to talk about it, but this Broncos team defending the run is something special, and not and a good way for the Jets. And outside of that Philly game, the games after that, a Raiders team that half the guys look like they've already quit. The Chargers traveling from the West Coast on prime time and a defense that's horrendous. And, and a Giants team we saw last night that it looks really bad. So there's a lot of potential here over the next 4 to 5 weeks. Got to start stacking some W's, though.
Again, we're speaking with Will Gashguard Parkinson, baby, the host of the TOJ podcast here on Boy Green Daily and Spectacular. I want to ask you this, though, because I've been on both sides of the fence. I was a loud advocate for signing Dalvin Cook. I wanted Dalvin Cook. I'm like, add him. Luxury time, baby. Add him to the team. It'll be great for everybody. After the first 4 weeks of the season, I have soured a bit. And Buffalo Jet fan, shout out to him on Twitter, he said maybe the Jets should just cut Dalvin with how he's performed. It's been so net negative, basically. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but he did say straight up they should cut him. That, it's been such a net negative that, dump him. Okay, it didn't work. It's the Breece Hall show. It's Michael Carter. Let's get Izzy off the inactive list and let's go. First off, what's the chance of that? Would you be for that? Assess the Dalvin Cook situation.
This one's tough because, part of me says, okay, I see where people are at. I don't know. I don't see them. I don't think they're going to just outright cut him or something like that. But what's tough, I guess it's a hard mix right now is I still think Dalvin has a lot of speed, and I still think Dalvin in the open field can make somebody miss. I think the problem is what Dalvin's being asked to do right now is kind of be like this bell cow between the tackles guy. And it's that's not really what he is at this point in his career. I think first of all, it's helped them because it's still taking some load off of Breece Hall, which is huge. I do understand kind of the thinking though of, hey, he's really struggled through the first 4 weeks to kind of make that really big impact. I thought during the Buffalo game, he had a couple of moments obviously that weren't great, but also he had a couple of moments where he had 10 yard, 12, 13-yard run. He had he's caught a swing pass for 10 or 15 yards. I was like, that's a nice usage of him. Get him outside. Maybe a halfback toss or two to Dalvin and stuff like that off the right side as well. I know Breece is obviously a fantastic back, and you want to give those all to him. I get it. But I just feel like I'm struggling a little bit with Dalvin's kind of being used as a guy that he's kind of not anymore. And that's where maybe where the frustration's coming in of hey, he's kind of pitter-pattering a little bit. It's weird because it's I don't know if he's actually washed athletically. I don't know if it's just more of I've been in the league. I've gotten paid now twice. And almost show me something. I know this sounds terrible, but I kind of felt this way with the defense. Once they saw something from the offense, it's almost like they were oh, okay. Now not that they weren't trying. It's not that. I'm not indicating. Yeah. But it's you can in the NFL, everyone tries, but you can always go up 2 or 3 levels. There always is, right? And the defense turned it up 2 or 3 levels. As soon as they were just give me a little hope, give me something to latch onto that I know if I make one mistake, I'm not going to get killed and we're not going to lose this game. And the defense, I felt played like that for 3 quarters. I almost feel Dalvin just needs to see kind of the ball go through the hoop on one of these. And maybe you see something a little different. So I'm not ready to kind of bail on Dalvin or anything like that yet. But I do think Breece's workload is going to increase. So maybe that takes a little bit away from Dalvin. Michael Carter's not without struggle either. He hasn't been that drop. I'm not saying he's a perfect back. I understand though, at the same time, wanting to give Michael Carter, a little bit more reps. You can do that. I don't know if I'm ready to bail on Dalvin totally, but I do understand the frustration a little bit and saying, can we maybe give an extra 15% of his touches to Breece Hall, and or Michael Carter? That I'm okay with, but I wouldn't bail on him quite yet because he's still a guy I feel like that might break one or two runs this year that are going to help the Jets, win a football game or two, and you're going to go, it's worth it type of thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm overly positive. I just feel like I don't think he's totally cooked, but I also think, for lack of a better term, but I do understand there's some frustration. He struggled through the first 4 weeks for sure.
But I love that, what you said. Again, sometimes it's just as simple because it felt like that's what Zach Wilson maximized. And the saying you just said is seeing the ball go through the net. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm back. Like Dalvin.
It happens, right?
Yeah, it has. He entered this season, and I know it's not this, but those are the numbers. 4 straight 1,100-yard plus rushing seasons, 4 straight. Like, I don't think he went from, hey, he's Michael Jordan. Oh, wait, Space Jam happened. Oh, wait, he's a talentless bastard. No, I don't think so. I think there's juice to be had. He just has to, again, both for him and the right play call for it to be a good match. But the thing that I wanted to transition to is Breece Hall. 6 carries. Now, the entire room, like he got 6 and Dalvin got 5. And Robert Saleh said in a one-on-one interview with EA ahead of the Chiefs game that I don't even think he's out of pitch count anymore. Not like he doesn't know. Obviously, he's the head coach. He knows. But, like, he's just so good and so back that no. I don't think there's a pitch count anymore because he's just ready to go. Well, the game didn't indicate that there's no pitch count anymore. Well, when is the Breece Hall takeover coming? Or it's maybe that never happening because they just always want to be careful when running back by committee?
I think part of the game dictated his touches. I think when he had the 3 receptions, the 6 carries.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They frankly just threw the ball a lot, and they didn't touch the ball the entire fourth quarter because the last 7.5 minutes. It was one of those weird games where they got down early, but they also Zach was dealing a little bit, and he was dealing with structures. So they were able to kind of utilize, it looked like Zach pulled a few potential run plays and threw out couple quick screens to Garrett Wilson, some bubble screens. It looks like, I still think Breece is like, in my opinion, watching him, having seen him live the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I feel like he's at like 90% back. I feel like he's like close, and it's amazing that he's this good this early. Yeah, it's incredible. This is not a slump.
Come on.
Yeah.
He should have had a touchdown.
He should have had multiple.
Yeah. Come on, man.
I think that I wonder if he's still like 5% away from that like full speed, literally sprinting 22, 23 miles an hour, that one plant cut where you're like, that's the last straw. Because it's like in space, though, when you still, near the line of scrimmage, you're not running 23 miles an hour, which you're 22, whatever Breece was running. I think it's happened both times. This time it wasn't a lack of effort from Conklin. I literally think he thought Breece was going to come on his right side and run
it was a miscommunication live, and they tripped, and you're like,
I know it's just such a bad look in the open field. But no, I think Breece will continue. I think this is a game you'll see Breece. You hope you get him to maybe the 12 to 15 carry range, and maybe he gets. I think what's the season high? I think New England, he was 15 touches or 12 touches. It's something like that. I don't know what the exact number is. Yeah. It was in the teens. Maybe you get him close to 17, 18 total touches, maybe 13 carries, 4 receptions or something against Denver. You can run all over Denver. We saw what Miami did to them. We saw what Chicago. They are literally statistically the worst defense in NFL history through 4 weeks, according to DVOA. So it's really bad. It's like historically bad. This is a team that's had talent in the past. Like Denver's always kind of been built on their defense. I guess they can't, and they still have Surtain and Simmons and some of these other guys. All that to say, I think this is the week maybe you start to see, 6 carries maybe becomes 11. Because I think the Jets are going to lean on that ground game. You're not going to want to, you're not going to want to sit there and, throw the ball 45 times unless it's working. But I still think the ideal game plan is 24 to 25 passes with Zach. He's like 18 to 25, really efficient in structure, but you're leading early in a game so you can run the ball and you're not on the field, a million times. But, I just think, you look back at, No,
that's okay.
I just think ideally with Breece, it's like, I don't think he's on a pitch count necessarily as much anymore as it is. I just think the game script dictated like, I think he would have probably been more close to 10 carries maybe in that game. Again, that's not enough, but it's, maybe he would add 4 or 5 more if the Jets get the ball back at some point in the fourth quarter.
All right, let's sprinkle in a few more here before we get you out of here on the program. Again, this is Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show talking all things New York Jets. I think this is the best I've ever felt with the Jets at 1-3 before. I could say that for a fact, Jack. And as I look at this with Zach Wilson, the coming out party, is the Zach Wilson thing real? Like, is that something? Because a lot of people, I did a poll yesterday and said, hey, do you think it's real or fluke? And there was enough votes in the fluke category that they're kind of like, I got to see it again. So is this new Zach Wilson for real? And number two, with that, if this new Zach Wilson is for real, what are the Jets' playoff chances? Because you talked about some of those games coming up. I'm licking my chops saying, man, I can still see the Jets winning 9 or 10 games with this version of Zach Wilson.
Yeah, this is classic because when we host shows, we both do this to each other. I'm just going to blindly tell you, if Zach Wilson throws for 200 yards and a touchdown and a half a game and a half an interception, right? So like kind of what you would have expected. I mean, we're going to do the win-loss-win game. Jets against Broncos. I think they beat the Broncos. I assume you do as well.
Yes, I do.
The Eagles game is probably a loss, but I also think the Eagles are begging to lose a game. So if you told me the Jets in this weird year lose Aaron Rodgers, but somehow beat the Eagles, I don't know. I still think they lose, but okay, they're 2-4. They got Giants, Chargers, Raiders before the Bills game. I think they'll be 5-4. I've said that for a while. The Bills game, let's just give them a loss there. They played Miami at home. I say they beat Miami.
That's fair.
Yeah, split that. Yep. Then they have Atlanta, Houston.
Double win.
Yeah. Then they play at Miami. You never know. Then they have Washington, Cleveland, whose defense is really good, but I don't know what Cleveland is. And they finished with the Patriots. Like, why can't they win 9 or 10 games? It all comes down to. I said this a million times yesterday. It's not just Zach playing well. It's Zach playing well within structure, running the offense the way it's supposed to be run, the play action game, getting the ball out, 1, 2, 3, plant, throw, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plant, throw, decisive. That's why that whole letting it rip thing, I felt like was a little deceiving. It was fair. I'm not trying to sound condescending. It's letting it rip. There's a lot of different letting it rips, right? Zach let it rip a lot. Yeah. Zach let it rip a lot last year. Guess what? the Patriots game and the Lions game and one's great. Couple of highlight throws. Wow, we're pumped up. And then it's a couple you're like, well, the game's over now because you just threw 3 interceptions. Like, that's not the recipe for success with Zach or any Jets quarterback, frankly. That's not what Rodgers in this offense was going to be. It was going to be really elite in play action, really good in some boots, some misdirection stuff. Zach did a good job of it. Really good at throwing some seams and go balls. And that's the stuff Zach is talented enough to do. And if you're confident and you give him that ability and you get open, first of all, and again, the best part of that whole drive, I know everyone focuses on the back shoulder throws and Zach.
Ooh, sexy.
Look at that. Yeah. Look at that O-line. Zach is comfortable in the pocket, huge pocket against a really good Chiefs defense with elite corners, with the top 5 best defensive player in the league last year at worst in Chris Jones. Nick Bolton being out obviously helped a little bit, but other than that, like, again, every throw, if you notice, 1, 2, 3, plant, throw, balls out. And that's the way it's supposed to be run. It's a timing offense. It's supposed to be get to your spot. The ball's going to hit you in the numbers and start going with it, right? Like, Zach took a couple. I mentioned it before. He saw take Garrett Wilson for 5 yards. It's okay. Live to fight it. That's the stuff where, like, I think everyone's been not crying for, but like literally dying for is, dude, stay ahead of the change. Stay ahead of the change. Stay ahead of the change. 2nd and 5, 2nd and 7. There was a lot. Even on Sunday, I felt like, and again, I know they lost, and I'm not trying to sound overly positive here, but it felt like at most drives, even the plays that were like negative plays, 2nd and 7, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, that at least you can operate and call a multitude of different plays there. The Jets, where they've struggled, they did this a lot against New England, and I felt like, the Dallas game was obviously nonstop that. And they did, better job against the Bills. You can't operate in 3rd and 11, 3rd and 13. Nobody can, other than even Mahomes in 3rd and 13 is no guarantee to get a first down, right? Like, that's where, like, I feel like Zach can continue it, but I have to see it. And again, I don't think anyone should be asking for Zach to play exactly how he played Sunday, right? Maybe it's one turnover, but it's, they're able to stay on the field longer in the defense. They don't get down in a hole, so the one turnover doesn't kill you. That again, I'm okay as long as it's within structure and he's playing confident, letting it rip within the confines of the offense. Again, the 1 or 2 cool, the 50-50 ball to Lazard, One of those a game is cool, right? Like that's you're good with that. They won games with that last year. It's when it's every play is rolling out to the right. That's when you go, ooh, no, get rid of it. But again, he did a good job 2 or 3 times, even with his own legs. 5 yards, get down, 5 yards, slide. Oh, and now it's 2nd and 5. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, bad play.
This is different.
This is bad play, and we're in 2nd and manageable. Now we can run the ball and give you a shot. It's all about stay ahead of the change, let it rip within the structure, and the O-line playing well, and people getting open. You'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, 2 quick things, and then we'll wrap up the show. Number 1, I will take a 9 catches for 60 yards and 14 targets stat line to Garrett Wilson every effing game. So just quick, boop, boop, boop. I know the yards per catch, and people are overreacting to that, hovering in the 6 range. I don't give a flying hoot, man. Let Lazard be the big play threat then. I don't care. Just get the ball in Garrett Wilson's hands. I don't discriminate. Short, intermediate, long. I don't give a crap. Excellent. So keep doing that. And the Zach Wilson thing, to your point, that I love, that makes me feel like it's sustainable, is the working inside the pocket and working the offense. And then the sporadic sprinkling, a little seasoning of roll out crazy Alan Lazard play. And there's been a couple of those where he makes a crazy great play, but all of it in the pocket. That makes me feel it's sustainable. If all the crazy shit was just rolling out to the right and doing
that's not sustainable.
Game, that's not. Exactly. That's why I don't think it's a play.
You've seen it too. Every single graph you see and that's what was weird about Zach to start the year is he actually used to be like, he was always good in a clean pocket. And the Patriots game, that was the most concerning thing. Rich Cimini took the 7 QBR with a clean pocket. With a clean pocket or even like a okay pocket, if you can operate within structure in the pocket, that's repeatable. That's the way it's supposed to be played.
Yes.
The other YOLO stuff is not, right? That's why it's the high variance guys of, yes, it's why Josh Allen's always the top of touchdown charts and the top. And again, Zach's not Josh Allen. I'm just saying that's why those guys are usually high touchdown, high interception, high variance. And when they're off, you probably lose. So again, you mentioned it. This should be repeatable. But again, we haven't seen Zach really stack back-to-back performances yet throughout his career. So can he follow up? Remember we saw that great Bucs game a couple years ago. And then they went to the Bills and he threw for 71 yards. So can we get, can Zach go out and go 17-25 for 198 yards, a touchdown, no picks, and look confident within the offense? The Jets rush for 200, and they win 27-10. Why can't that happen? Then you're going to the Eagles game and you're going, oh, this is house money. This is a house money game. We've never beat the Eagles. They're going to be probably 8-point favorites in your own building, but you're 2-3 going into the bye, and you still feel really good about making the playoffs. That's where you need to get to.
And the Eagles haven't looked great. They haven't looked like the Eagles team from last year. So even that one, I'm like, well, let's just see what happens, and it's in your own building. I don't know. It's probably now if you're on the outside looking in. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that one is interesting. Real quick, everybody, we'll get more into Broncos. We've got 2 Denver Broncos guests later this week. Phil Milani, he works with the Denver Broncos, and Benjamin Albright, he's a superstar. We'll have him on the show. Will, set us up. TOJ Podcast. What do we have this week?
Yeah, a couple episodes coming out. Weekly with Brad Spielberg will be tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about just, we talked a lot about last week of just where the Jets are at money-wise in terms of if they want to make a move at quarterback. Obviously, things have changed a little bit, but again, it's still week by week, right? If Zach turns back into a pumpkin the next 2 weeks, then maybe it's a revisited conversation. But I think, again, it's always been best case is Zach figures it out for the year. They make the playoffs and maybe you get value for him in the offseason and you get Aaron Rodgers back or whatever it's going to be. A couple episodes this week. Have a couple of special guests. I don't want to unveil it yet. Just as you know in this world, until people are actually in the Zoom call, sometimes we get in last minute rescheduling. But there'll be some good pods this week, and obviously excited for the game on Sunday. I think it's a game. It's the biggest game of the Jets year. It's a must-win game. A lot of payback for for maybe there's last year's a game that a lot of bad stuff happened.
Yes.
Try to get a victory here. Find a way to 2-3. If you do it impressively, that's awesome. But just find a way to 2-3. Come home to MetLife, before the bye and figure it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's all we'll dive into. Nathaniel Hackett, Sean Payton, Aaron Rodgers' presence, and then the Breece Hall AVT. Man, there a
lot of storylines.
Denver. Who would have thought at Denver? But nonetheless, this thing is this puppy is overflowing, and we're looking forward to it. Will, brother. Always man, I love doing this. I wish we could just do this show every gosh darn day, but we both have lives, of course. But I enjoy it when we can, man. This is a lot of fun.
I appreciate it. Keep crushing. That was cool. You had Garrett on last week. That was awesome.
Flex up. But that's the same thing. See, I just end on this because we're never gonna end. But Will, that's it. That like I had Garrett secured. I'm like, there's no way in hell. Scream from the rooftops. Ooh, I'm having Garrett. And then a last second change and all the shit. And said I don't have Garrett. Oh, Paul, you're an idiot. So you gotta wait till you secure the bag, and then you're like, okay, Garrett fucking Wilson just was on the show. See, that's it. That's the key. So Will, you've learned. You've been in the business.
Yeah, you just you don't want to give false hope. But no, that was awesome. And keep crushing it.
Thanks, brother. That's Will Gosh darn Parkson, baby. Make sure you guys check out the TOJ podcast. We'll be back tomorrow morning on Boy Green Daily at 7:30. Like I said, a couple of great Broncos guests. Benjamin Albright, Phil Milani, Jet Central will be joining the show this week as well. We'll have Weekly Woody and so much more. So Broncos guests, Jets guests, and I want to dive into some of those tantalizing storylines of Nathaniel Hackett, Sean Payton, Breece Hall and ABT both went down in week 7 of Denver last year. It's time for some revenge. It's time for some vengeance, baby. An absolute must-win game for the New York Jets. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7:30.